Hey there, listeners. Welcome to the Life Doula Podcast, where we delve into stories of resilience, hope, and transformation. I'm your host, Charity Marohombsar, your Life Doula, and today we're embarking on a special journey. In this episode titled From Patient to Advocate, Young Adult Shaping the Future of Cancer Community Support, we're shining a spotlight on a remarkable journey of a young woman who turned her pain into purpose. So picture this, navigating the turbulent waters of cancer as a young adult can feel like being lost at sea with no compass to guide you. But what if, amidst a storm, you found a beacon of hope, a light shining bright showing you the way forward? Our guest today, guided by her own experiences, emerged as a fierce advocate, a voice for change, and a pillar of support for the others walking a similar path. Join us as we journey alongside this remarkable young woman, exploring the highs and lows and the transformative power of turning pain into purpose. Get ready for a conversation that's equal parts poignant and relevant as we shine a spotlight on the incredible resilience and strength of young adults shaping the future of cancer community support. So, our guest for today is someone who's very familiar with Better Days Wellbeing Center. She's joined us in many occasions, but as I mentioned, her parents are also very, very active. Today, we have with us, and I will claim this already, future lawyer, founder of Kaya, and a cancer thriver and survivor, Alexa Grace Fontanilla. Good afternoon, Alexa.
Good afternoon, Miss Charity. I'm always happy to be here at Better Days.
Buong-buo, no? Alexa Grace. So, Alexa, can you share with us your personal journey of being diagnosed with cancer? What year were you diagnosed, and how has that journey been for you?
I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 23 years old, and this
Wow.
was in 2020 during the pandemic, the peak of the pandemic.
Wow.
I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. It was really a time of disruption, not just for me, but for everyone around me. I had to stop school for a while. I was already in my third year in law school back then, but everything had to be put to a halt because of my condition. My physical condition was continuously deteriorating, and we didn't know what was wrong with me. I went through online consultations because we were afraid of going to the hospital. It was a time when people were passing away left and right, and we were so scared to step out of the house. And given also what I looked like back then, I was really physically deteriorating. It was even more scary to go outside the house back then. But eventually, I had to be rushed to the hospital because of resting heart rate that was 150 beats per minute. So it
Wow.
was like I was running a marathon even while I was lying on my bed. So I had to be brought to the hospital, and that's where they found a fist-sized tumor in my chest. And that's when we found out that I had non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
All I can say is wow. Happened in 2020 at the height of pandemic, and the hospitals were not really ready or even equipped to take care of cancer patients amidst the sea of, back then in 2020 it was still Delta,
Yes.
right? So walk us through it. After finding out the big mass, did you have to undergo surgery first, or did you have to undergo chemotherapy?
Well, to start, before that, all my symptoms were mimicking COVID, actually. I had fever, I had cough, and it was because of the mass. It was a struggle to get a diagnosis. I was even misdiagnosed with tuberculosis through the online consultations, but even with the meds, my situation wasn't improving. So that's apart from the uh, symptom that I mentioned earlier, the 150 beats per minute heart rate. I also had the recurring cough and a fever, so I had to be rushed to
Wow.
the hospital. And the first thing they did was to do a CT scan. Of course, I had to be placed in a negative pressure room because I told them I had tuberculosis because that was the diagnosis that was given to me. So it was really, in one word, a tumultuous experience of getting just a diagnosis of what I might possibly have. And when I was brought to the hospital, um, I had to get a biopsy first because in the CT scan, they found tumors all over my body. It's not just in my chest. Apart from the fist size tumor in my chest, there was an involvement in my abdomen. There was a small lump in my breast. So it was just everywhere in my
And
neck.
thus, it was stage 4.
It was stage 4. That's how they staged it. And then they did the biopsy. Uh, and that's when they found out it was the specific diagnosis is primary mediastinal B cell lymphoma. So it's a very rare subtype of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, commonly found in young women like me, ages 20 to 30 years old. Uh, there. So the first thing that my doctor did was to do a bone marrow biopsy. I'm not sure if everyone knows how painful that is, how scary that is, because even with the anesthesia, you would really feel the
Feel, yeah.
pulling of the bone marrow. And then after that, they sent me home. I had to wait for a while to get an official diagnosis. After 2 weeks, I finally got it, and it was everything just went continuously. The chemo, uh, I had to do 6 cycles. But before that, I had to have a port placed in. So everything just went rolling as soon as I got the diagnosis. My doctor stayed on top of things and wanted me to get treatment immediately.
Okay, just for the information of everyone, when you are diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of any type, surgery is not a priority because when you are diagnosed with stage 4, it means it has metastasized, the cancer has spread to the body. So the goal of treatment is to control the spread. Thus, surgery is not the priority. And when people go through biopsy, it's not something that the results are available readily. It normally takes 7 to 10 days. And I can imagine during the pandemic, even longer. So the kind of cancer that Alexa had was really, really difficult because the bone marrow biopsy in itself is a very painful process, even if you have anesthesia. It's something that you can really feel. So, there you go. Alexa, how long was the treatment?
Roughly 5 months. So it was 6 cycles of chemotherapy. I didn't have to go through any surgery because lymphoma is primarily treated through first chemotherapy, and then depending on the result, one may go through radiation or not.
Okay, so 5 months. And then,
But then
sabi ko na nga ba
there
may
is a
kasunod
but.
siya.
After 5 months, my scans were clear. But then, after 10 months in remission, or even less, they found in my follow up scans that it was growing back again. And that's when I had to go through everything again. The biopsies, they had to get a sample again from my chest. Fortunately, I didn't have to go through another bone marrow biopsy because I dreaded it. I didn't want to go through that again. But I had to go through the biopsy of the mass in my chest that was growing once again to make sure that it was the same kind of cancer. After getting the diagnosis, the confirmation that it was the same kind of cancer, I had to go through a second line of treatment, which is chemo and then the transplant, the stem cell transplant.
Okay. I want to be able to educate our audience again that different types of cancer would have different levels of protocols. Breast and prostate has the widest. Ibig sabihin, they have different like 8 or 9 levels of protocols that one can use, but other cancers can only have 4, right? So it's very important to find out that if the cancer recurs, is it the same type of cancer so they know exactly. That is why every cancer patient and every cancer survivor, we always say once you ring the bell, it's not the end. You will really have to go through a series of very intentional decisions to live a healthy lifestyle so that when your follow up scans happen, there is a lesser chance of recurrence. In your case, 5 months treatment, you were in remission, and then less than 10 months into it, it came back,
Yes.
right? So by then, what year was that?
It was already 2021.
2021. Okay. And I have to highlight the fact that when this was happening, Alexa was only 23, 24 years old,
Yes.
correct? So we all refer to this type of age group as those that they feel life has really been interrupted
Yes.
because they're young, uh, and there's so many things they want to do, even if it was the pandemic, and life really had to put to a halt. Now, the beautiful thing about this is, amidst all of this, you created a community. What inspired you to create community of young adults facing cancer? It's called Kaya, right?
Yes.
What does the acronym stand for?
Kaya stands for Cancer sa Adolescents and Young Adults. So it's a mix of English and Filipino.
Which is very your generation.
Yes.
What were some of the challenges you encountered? What propelled you to set it up, and what were the challenges you encountered?
It wasn't my idea alone. Actually, the catalyst for this is Doc Gel Gallespen. She was a fellow in St. Luke's where I had my treatment. I met her because she was the one in charge of me during my first chemotherapy. And we were trying to picture this scenario where it was the pandemic. But imagine there are two young adult cancer patients in 2 rooms next to each other. But we couldn't meet. We couldn't talk to each other. We couldn't go out of the hallways because it was COVID. Uh, but we were facing the same situation. We were both dealing with cancer. We couldn't talk. But we're millennials or Gen Zs. We're tech savvy. We're online, chronically online young adults.
I like the word chronically online.
Yes, so that's how the idea started. That why not make a Facebook group for this age group? Our age group is the 15 to 39-year-old age group. It's called Adolescents and Young Adults, or AYA for short. I might refer to us as AYA.
Or Kaya, it's the same, right?
Yes. So that's how the idea started, that why not make a Facebook group or a chat group in order to meet and share our journeys with one another. But the third person in the equation is Lenny Veronilia. She also had the same diagnosis as mine, PMBCL, but she went through treatment ahead of me. She's now a 4-year cancer survivor.
Woohoo.
So it was her. I didn't know her personally, but I was looking through stories of survivors of the illness that I had. And she was one of the top searches when you search for PMBCL. And I silently followed her posts, and I saw that she was able to overcome this disease, and that gave me a lot of hope as I was going through treatment in the hospital. And she also got treatment from the same hospital, and that's how we connected. I just gathered the courage to message her one day, and we connected, and the three of us got to meet online. And this is where the idea of Kaya came to be. So it wasn't just me. It was the three of us, and that was the catalyst in order to get the ball rolling, put this group up, and have Kaya.
Okay. I just want to pick out one thing. A lot of cancer patients would tend to lean into social media, internet, and I always refer and say research about their illness to Dr. Google, which I highly, highly discourage. Now, the story of Alexa was a little different. She was searching for someone that could spark hope, someone who survived it or who is surviving it. So I just want to capture this as a learning for all of us, for all of you guys who are chronically on the internet. Should you search about your illness, look for a survivor. Then look at the life and channel everything. Because when you start tapping into the energy of someone who has survived, then your hope will also solidify, right? How did your experience with cancer shape your perspective of your life and your sense of identity?
Cancer really changed a lot of my old ways. When I think about my pre-cancer self, I was really different back then. I was a go-getter. I was very ambitious. But when you're in the hospital, Miss Charity, you would think of how we're stripped of our identity as patients. Whenever they would give us medicines, they would ask for our name and our date of birth. And that's it.
Ulit-ulit, ulit-ulit.
Paulit-ulit, yes. But that's it. No one would ask about our dreams, our aspirations. No one would really stop by, apart from our companions, our caregivers. No one would really stop by and ask us how we were before getting diagnosed or what we want to be when we get out of the hospital. So, for me, my experience as I went through treatment, I felt like I was stripped of my identity. That after having gone through treatment for 2 years, getting out of the hospital, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I'm a law student. I just went on leave of absence, but my aspirations after studying or what I wanted to do, um, as I was studying, I didn't have that. I felt like I lost my self identity in that sense. But Kaya was a big help because it was these Kaya members who asked about what I wanted to do after getting cancer, after getting treatment for cancer.
And after getting better.
And after getting better, they asked the questions that I didn't get asked when I was in the hospital. Um, it helped me understand my identity as a cancer survivor, but as also Alexa as a person. I'm not just a cancer survivor. It's part of my identity. I can't erase it from my history, but it's not just who I am right
Correct.
now.
That's really, really such a rich perspective, right? I always say this, and you've heard if you're following me on Instagram or in the Life Doula podcast, you've always heard me say, life is not the same after cancer. You are never gonna be the same person. But I think Alexa put it so beautifully that cancer will be part of who you are, but it's not entirely who you are. As a matter of fact, from experience, you become a better person. You have a better perspective of things. You have a better appreciation of life, right? And how beautiful it is that while cancer is not a good thing, you were able to experience that. Can you tell us about some factors or strategies that help you navigate through your cancer journey? I mean, one of the hardest things is to be able to look beyond our scans, right? If you do scans, like I was stage 4, so I was doing my scans every quarter, it's kind of hard to look beyond each quarter. I couldn't plan trips or family activities beyond each quarter. I have learned to do that many years after. So, how were you able to navigate through that being locked in the hospital? I know you were also isolated for almost a month
Yes.
because your immune system was very low. What were the factors or what were the strategies that helped you cope and survive those quote unquote dark days?
For one, it's being intentional with my relationships, with my family, my spiritual journey, my friends. Uh, that was one big thing that helped me overcome the loneliness and isolation. I didn't want to crave for a big support network, a big rallying force behind me. It was just me reaching out to people, asking for help, also praying. Prayer was a really big part of my 2 year journey with cancer. And even until now, I cling on to prayer, to my relationship with God as I go through even this process of survivorship. So, being intentional helped me overcome the challenges that I faced. It was my family that I could really rely on
Yeah.
for support.
Yeah.
You've met my parents.
Yes.
And I dealt with a lot of grief as I got diagnosed with cancer. It wasn't just me who faced big challenges, big changes in my life. It was my family. I it helped me that I talked to them also about how they felt with my journey. I'm the firstborn, panganay po ako. So
Oh, it's so hard.
it's not just me. I had to also take care of them. I had to also journey with them. Sometimes I'm the one giving them comfort whenever we would hear bad news, whenever the results weren't the most favorable. I also had to give them comfort, even though I needed comfort myself. So that was one, my family, my parents, and my sister.
And your spiritual journey as well.
Yes. For my spiritual journey, there were lots of moments of silence and solitude as I was going through treatment. I was sometimes alone in my room, my hospital room, or at home. And it was this silence that helped me talk to God, helped me cling on to prayer. I wasn't a very prayerful person, but it was this journey with cancer that taught me how to pray again, how to ask for help. But I also understood that when I'm praying, sometimes I don't pray for a specific outcome. I just pray that God will include my hopes and dreams in His plans, and that helped me. That gave me comfort. Not praying for a specific outcome, but praying that God listens to the desires of my heart and includes that in His will for me.
You know, that's such a beautiful, beautiful perspective. Because a lot of times, people I meet in the cancer journey have really stopped praying for a while. And it's just sad that cancer would happen. And then that's when they reconnect with God. But one beautiful perspective you've shared is that prayer is not a time to negotiate. It's never meant to be that way. Prayer is not a time to bargain. Prayer is a time for our hearts to align with God's plans for us. If only we can look at things that way, then perhaps there would be less frustration from cancer patients. Um, there's always a joke that cancer patients are the most impatient people because they ask, when will this stop? Like what you said, praying for a specific outcome. Alexa, in building a community for young adults with cancer, What are some of the most important aspects you had to focus on to ensure it was inclusive, it was supportive, especially that you're in different parts of the country, right?
Yes. Inclusivity for us is a big word because it doesn't just mean financial capacity. That's a big part of our community because we all come from different walks of life. Some are in the Philippines getting treatment here locally in public or private hospitals. Some are abroad, Filipinos living abroad but wanting to find a local community here because they feel like you would understand them better than their peers there. We also understand that. So, uh, that is a big part of the question of inclusivity, but also when we talk about cancer survivorship, for us in Kaya, we consider everyone diagnosed with cancer as survivors. So that's our all-in-one term for everyone. But we are in different stages of survivorship. Some are newly diagnosed. Some are already 10-year cancer survivors. Some are facing a relapse. Some are in the end of life stage. So, to be inclusive is a huge challenge for us because we don't have a lot of resources. But we try to arrange kumustahan sessions, Zoom meetups that focus on these different aspects of survivorships. And these meetups are free. Everyone is free to join, regardless of what their status is in life. They're free to share wherever they are in their journey. And we try to meet that. So we would have sessions for newly diagnosed patients and their caregivers, what questions they might want to ask their doctors, or what uh, life changes they might need to confront after getting diagnosed. We also have sessions for those uh, who are already nearing the end of treatment and thinking about going back to work, or those who want to continue working while getting treatment. So we try to meet everyone where they're at. And surprisingly, even those who are already, as I said, 10-year cancer survivors, they try to even attend sessions for newly
Of course.
diagnosed patients because we feel that they also want to listen. They want to also give their own testimonies in the hopes that it might help
Contribute.
contribute to
Yeah.
our work.
Alexa, how do you balance the role of you being a cancer survivor, a community leader, and a young adult in daily life? Because I was told by your parents that you are always busy. You are doing a lot of things. How do you know, bring that balance in?
Balancing is a bit difficult, but I try not to think of these things, these roles, as competing roles. It's all part of my intersectionality as a person. I'm a young adult. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a community leader. I treat all of these equally as my role here in this earth. This is where I am now. What I do to balance is I just try to give time to each of my activities, each of my interests. For when it's for school, it's for school. When it's for Kaya, it's for Kaya. All of these things give me joy. Being a young adult in
That is very important because
yes.
I was gonna say when your mom would tell me, "Oh, we're worried about her because she's still very busy." I told her that for as long as it doesn't stress you out, because again, I will underline the fact that stress is such a big cause for relapse and recurrence, and you're happy with it, then you're good, right? Can
Yes.
you share a pivotal moment or experience during your cancer journey that totally transformed your outlook on life and helped you see yourself beyond your disease?
For me, it's graduating from the hospital. I still remember the last day I had my treatment. The last day I had to do a procedure that is not a scan. It was my last day of radiation. And it felt like a real graduation when I stepped out of the hospital that day. I feel like that is a pivotal moment in my cancer journey because I was really full of hope. I was looking forward to the future. I didn't have to think of the next week or the next month. that's the day I allowed myself to think of the next year or the next 2 years, because that was a big struggle when I was going through treatment. I I was on survival mode. So I was only thinking of what I would do the next day, what I
Yeah.
would eat the next day. But when I stepped out of the hospital that day, I also allowed myself to try to think of what am I gonna do next? Where do I see myself in the next year or two?
All of a sudden, the future looks a little brighter for you.
Yes.
Right. So, how do you cultivate resilience and maintain a positive mindset? Cancer survivors like us, there's always this specter of, am I gonna get a relapse? Or when it's time for anxiety, how do you maintain that positive mindset?
Dark humor.
Dark humor.
This is such a young
Parang may
adult
mga
answer.
parang may mga tumawang ka-age or almost in the same generation. Okay, so you could give me an example of what a dark humor is.
One example, we would go to the hospital. Sometimes it's the two of us, sometimes it's the three of us. We would go to the nurse and say, "Oh, we're here for our fourth flush. Could we get the Barkada discount?" And they would laugh. I mean, they're not sure if they should laugh or not, because we're all cancer patients or survivors trying to do something together. It's our form of bonding, because after the procedure, we would get lunch together. So this is a humor that I guess only we can do,
Yeah.
but it's funny and it helps lighten the mood for us, because I feel like it's hard to maintain a positive mindset all the time. Uh, we also allow ourselves to be vulnerable. I
Yeah, of
allow
course.
myself to cry, to grieve, because I feel like too much positivity
Oh,
also
yeah.
is a danger. I would give myself time to write out my thoughts. If you see my journal, it's full of tear stains, because I allowed myself to grieve my situation. And by doing that, I felt like my heart will become stronger.
Yes.
And after that, I would brush everything aside and face treatment, face the next stage of my cancer journey again. So that's what I would do, not just to maintain a positive mindset all the time, but to allow myself to be vulnerable.
I think that's very, very important. Being able to name your emotions, label them, and allow. The word allow is such a powerful thing. Allow yourself to grieve, to be scared. But as Father Jerry Orbos would always say, huwag mo lang tambayan masyado. Huwag ka masyadong tumagal doon, no? And for the information of everyone, Portacath is installed in cancer patients normally who are in advanced stages, or if your veins are too thin. But generally, it's for patients on advanced cancer because you will have frequent treatment. It makes it a lot easier for chemotherapy to be administered. However, if you are a survivor, it stays in your body for a few years, and that is the reason why you need a port flash to make sure that it's not stuck or it's still working, because it's still a foreign body. And I got mine out last year, uh, and it was to me another graduation. That feeling of taking that out was a completely liberating feeling. And when my surgeon said, "Do you want this to be a souvenir?" I said, "Nope." I said, "You can keep it." So, finally, Alexa, what advice would you give to other young adults facing cancer who may be struggling to find hope and support?
Reach out to others. This is my most important advice. We have Kaya, but we also have Better Days. We have different cancer communities all around the Philippines, online, even abroad if you want to meet people from abroad. Everyone's arms are reaching out. They just have to accept it, to hold on. Um, Isolation is very dangerous, I would think, because you'll get so alone in your thoughts. You wouldn't have an outlet to let it all out, talk to someone who has gone through the same thing or who is going through the same thing. So that's my advice. It's really to reach out to others who are facing the same situation as you are. I did that. My peers in Kaya did that. We are journeying together, and
Yes.
that's really important.
So really, it's a power of community, right? And as Alexa said, you have a whole range of cancer community supports that you can choose. Some would join the general cancer support community. Some would join the very specific cancer support of their type of cancer. Like there's cancer support for leukemia, for prostate, even for breast. There's even a further subcategory like cancer support group for triple negatives, right? Or for a rare type of lung cancer. So there's just so much. And Alexa was with us during the Women's Month. And one of the things that we all agree is cancer community is not a group you would want to be a part of, but when you are in the journey, it's such a big help, right? Just being able to talk about the same things to people who go through what you're going through is already healing in
Yes.
itself, right? So Alexa, thank you so much for spending time with us. For those of our audience who are interested, how can they join Kaya?
They can join Kaya by going through our Instagram. It's at Kaya_community. We are open to everyone. We even have members who are not in the Aya age group, but we just welcome everyone. We can have a conversation with you. We can meet you face to face or online. We're just here for you.
And you're also on Facebook, right?
Yes.
So there you go. That's we have just really had a very deep, meaningful conversation with Alexa Fontanilla, founder of Kaya. As we come to the end of the episode, from patient to advocate, young adults shaping the future of cancer community support, we've journeyed alongside a remarkable individual who has shown us the power of resilience, compassion, and advocacy. In this specific segment of society, young adults, they face challenges of cancer, and we've uncovered invaluable lessons. We've learned about the importance of finding strength in their vulnerability, as what Alexa shared, of seeking support and solidarity in times of struggle, and of channeling our experiences into meaningful action. But most importantly, we've been reminded of the incredible resilience and strength that reside within each and every one of us. Despite the hardships we may face, there's always hope, always a potential for growth, and always the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of others. As we reflect on the lessons learned in this segment of this particular part of society, let us carry forward the spirit of resilience, advocacy, and community support. Let us continue to uplift and empower one another, and let us never underestimate the impact of our voices, our actions, and our stories. Our stories can shape the future of cancer community support. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, heal strong, and keep shining your light for others to see.